Hello everyone, I'm John from Nickthen Gaming, and today I will show you how to create a Google Play authentication in Unity and Firebase using the latest long-term service Unity, which is at this current time 2021.3.16 F1. Also using the Unity latest Google Play Games plugin, which at this time is 0.11.01 Unity package. Now, if you are here, then that might be because you've noticed that in mid-2022, Google Play Console, Unity, and Firebase threw away all of their previous things, and they have yet to update the documentation, and everything just leads to something depreciated. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So, I am in my Firebase. We start with Firebase, and I'm going to create a project name. You can name yours whatever you want. Mine is just going to be Google Play Game Services, or GPGS. I am not going to enable analytics for this, just for my personal reasons. You can try it with analytics, but I have not ran this with, so if something does happen, then maybe it's because of analytics. And it will just take a minute to start this up. We will also be using the Google Play console, which you will need to pay about $25 US to have. So let's get started. I'm going to say get started by adding Firebase to your app. I'm going to click Unity, and I will register as an Android app. I do not have Apple, but if you are interested enough in Apple, then you can support me, and I will look into adding an Apple video of this method. So now, register an Android app, com.company.app name. So my company is Gaming. My company is Nickthen Gaming, but it does not matter if you even have a company. You can say com.android.package, whatever you want this, but you will need this name to be static, and I'll just call this GPGS. You can add a nickname if you want, but I don't. I will now register my app. You also shouldn't use a name that you've already used. I will download the Google services.json, and we'll save that until the end of this video. I will click next. You should download the Firebase Unity SDK zip, and then you should export it into a folder of your choice. I already have this downloaded on my local machine, which is right here, and all we really need is the auth from this package. So if you are low on space, then maybe you should delete some stuff, but really you only need the Firebase auth to follow along in this video. So I will click next since I don't need to download it, and I'll go to continue. Next, I'll go build authentication, and I will say get started. I highly recommend that you do not look at the docs here. Well, look at the docs and realize how bad they are, because they are extremely outdated. I will create a new sign-in method for Google. The public-facing name will be GPGS, and you can see that this is the name shown to the users when they need to do something with your project. I will also select my email. If you're interested, feel free to email me at my company email. And when we finish enabling Google Sign-In, you will see a web client and web secret automatically generated, and that will be the most important part of this process. And it will just take a moment to sign in. You should make sure that you have your SDK installed, and you should also go and download the Google Play Games plugin that we talked about before. But we'll get to that later. So click on Google, go to Web SDK. Now this client ID and the client secret are the most important parts. I will copy those to my clipboard. You can save them on a notebook or wherever you want. But now I will add a new provider, which is Play Games. I will enable it, and the client secret is the secret that I just copied. And don't worry, I will be deleting this project after the video. And my client ID, I will press Windows V to get my ID. It will be something that ends in appsgoogleusercontent.com, and I will save this. Okay, now we are done with Firebase. We don't ever need to look at it again. So I will go into my Google Play console. Now the console will have to be the same Google account that you used for your Firebase. Otherwise you will have issues later on. My app name, I will use the same name as I did in Firebase, which for me will be GPGS. You must say it's a game, otherwise you can't use the Google Play console. You can select free or paid. I will go with free just because I will be tossing this away later. And you might need to go through a few extra setup steps. Now we are in the new dashboard. Let's go all the way to the bottom to app content and just fill these out as best you can. So the privacy policy, you can just upload any privacy policy that you have. I use a default privacy policy for my nonsense things like this, which I have saved in my clipboard sometimes. And to get to your clipboard like this, it would just be holding the Windows key and pressing V. So Windows V. Okay, I don't have it, so I will go and grab that in 1 second. Let's see. No. Oh, you're seeing all of my screens. Okay, here we go. And yes, so I just use my test privacy policy, which simply says I state to the best of my knowledge that this does not have anything bad. So no, this app does not contain ads. All of it is fully functional. Now another thing to know as I'm filling all of this nonsense out is with the game, 1 second. Okay, so with the game, you will not have the console log or print functions because this will only work running from an Android device. You cannot run this app on your editor. It will just not work. You won't even get past the first step. So you will need to build it to an external phone. And again, none of this content part actually matters, so I'm just filling out filler content because this is just going to be enough to get it to run on my cellular device. So if you are making an actual game that you plan to actually publish and share with people, then I definitely recommend that you go through and fill out everything as truthfully as possible. In fact, for this app content part, I recommend that you do not copy exactly what I am doing and fill out the sections that I fill out, but use the information that you have for your app. Okay, now I have everything set to submitted. I will go up to the main store listing where I'm just going to say no and no. You do need to add some graphics. I'm just going to add some graphics from one of my Infinite Runner games. I will actually have another Infinite Runner game published about the end of the month if the artist works out. Now I will go to store settings where I'm pretty much doing the same thing. Email address. Okay, I will save that. Now everything should be working. So in Play Games Services under Configuration, let's start to get to the meat of this. I say yes, this game already uses Google APIs, and I will select GPGS. So that is why you need to use the same account, otherwise you won't see it here. You should be able to do this without going to, yes, my game already uses Google APIs, but it has less possibilities of actually working and it can be more complicated. The most important thing I would say is to have your Firebase using the same, or having everything using the Firebase Google client ID. So now I'll say add credential. The first credential I want to add is an Android one, which I'll say create auth, create OAuth. It will take me to the console cloud Google. The application type is going to be Android. Android 1 is fine. Now I'm going to use the same package name that I used in Firebase, which is com.nickthengaming.gpgs. The SHA1 fingerprint we do not have right now, so let's go into Unity. So I will now create a new Unity project called GPGS, and while that's creating, we can talk a little bit more. So the SHA1 fingerprint is something that you get with the key store, which we'll talk about. You also need to make sure that you have the latest Unity package installed, and I will find that. So the Google Play Games plugin. And you can really just Google that and it will be the first GitHub thing that you see. So yes, the Play Games Services, Play Games plugin for Unity, you know, something that's been forked 1,000 times, starred 3,000 times, and you just click download for the current build. Now, when you see this, the current build might be a different version, and if it is, then you might need to follow different steps. Also, let me know in the comments so I can know to update this video. But yes, you will need to download that because we will be adding it to Unity. Also, make sure that you have your Firebase SDK already installed and downloaded, and we'll come back once this is done building. Okay, so now my new Unity project has just finished building, and the first thing I want to do is, just so I can see that something is working, I will go to UI and I will create a scroll view. I will actually go to my canvas, change scale with screen size. Oh, let's do 1080 by 1920. I will click canvas, press F. I will go game, set it to, oh, okay. We need to go file, build settings, and I need to switch it over to Android. I will also select build app bundle, create symbols to public, and I will select switch platform. Now this will take just a moment to do, and then we can actually start to set up things for our Android. Now, all of this stuff will be ran on your phone as a normal app, like if you're playing Free Fire or Clash of Clans or Mobsters or whatever kids play these days. So you will not actually be able to see any debugging. Now, free aspect, I will do 1980 by 1020 portrait. I will go back to scene, press F to view the new canvas. Go to scroll view, I will set it to fill. I'll turn off horizontal, needs to reload some script assemblies, which just happens every now and then. We'll also delete this image and the canvas renderer since they're not needed. I will delete the horizontal and vertical scroll bars. Let's look at, yes, okay, good. I will delete the content. I will right click on viewport and I will add UI text mesh pro, import the TMP essentials, because in the latest version of Unity you should no longer be using normal text. I will also go to add component and add a content size fitter with a preferred size on the vertical fit. Okay, that's what we need there. Then scroll view, I'm going to drag the text into the content. And pretty much this lets us scroll through whatever things we get. Okay, and that's all we need to show ourselves information. Now, after you're done with your testing, I highly recommend that you change this, but this is just for testing. Now I will go to Assets and Import Package, Custom Package. I'm going to go to my downloads, and first I will add the Firebase Auth Unity package. I will import everything. I will not change anything. After we import the Firebase Auth import stuff, we will import the Unity package that I showed you a few times already, the 0.11 package. And this is the most controversial Unity package that I know of, because they really destroyed all of their documents on the forums and the website, and it was just so horrible. And okay, now we've got that added, so assets, import package, custom package, and now I will add the Google Play. Now remember, when you add the Firebase Unity SDK, make sure you just add the auth. We don't need the other ones, and the other ones may break it. So yes, just the auth. Now I will add the 0.11.01 Unity package. If you are wanting to follow along with this video, then even if there is another version, it should be fine to come back to the version that I am using, even if it is about 1 or 2 out. So if you see some of the methods that I use missing, then this is where you would want to go to fix that, because that's the big controversy with this newest version that came out in the middle of 2022, is that they completely deleted many of the old functions that were a bit depreciated but very well documented. And there have been many Unity staff members on the Unity forums that say, oh, we made a mistake. Until we fix this, just go back to version 10.6. Well, as I understand it, the version 10.6 no longer works at all. They completely removed the functionality for that. I will enable Android resolution, and I'm going to delete these obsolete files as it wants. Otherwise, this will just pop up every single time, and I found that things still work with it. Okay, it's going to take a moment to create the Android dependencies, and we are almost there, but we can actually do some stuff in the meantime. So now I'll go to Edit and then Project Settings. In Project Settings Player, I'm going to change my company name. Now this is going to be the project company name that you have used every time before in the Firebase and the Google Play console. So mine was com.nickthangaming.gpgs, which means my company name needs to be gaming. The product name would be gpgs. I'm not going to worry about any of the icons. In my other settings, however, so you can publish something to Google Play, I'm going to turn off the override to get that. You will need to have at least API level 31 for Google Play to date. If you do not have that, you can force it to API level 33, and then it will just ask you to update, which will be done automatically. Thankfully, I have already gone through that process. I will select IL2 CPP for the configuration. I will check ARM64. I do find that I must have 7 and 64 selected, otherwise Google Play console does not accept it. Now I'll go to Keystore, Keystore Manager, Keystore Create New. Anywhere it will go into the project head. I'm just going to type in some base passwords. I'm going to give it the alias of user. You can give it any name you want, add some more passwords, however long you want it to be valid for. Here's my name, these things don't really matter as long as you have the alias that says it created the new key store, and now we can actually continue. And we actually can't continue in Unity until we deal with the next few steps. So I'm going to close this. It's going to keep doing the resolving, but we'll go through the resolving later. I do actually want to go into my downloads, and the Google Services JSON, which we got from Firebase, I will drag into the project. Now I will actually right click and I will say Show in Explorer, and this tells me where my project is located. Now we want to open your favorite command prompt application, whether that be command prompt or the newer PowerShell. So I will open PowerShell just for you. I actually prefer to use, oh, that's not the one I want. I prefer to use Hyper just because it is, in my eyes, better than PowerShell. I really do not like PowerShell just because it is a bit broken. Okay, so PowerShell is not at the moment working on this computer, so instead I will use an application called Hyper, which is similar to PowerShell, and the functions should still be the same. Oh, look, but it does say it failed for the GPGS support, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so now in my Hyper, once this finishes working, I have had some issues with Hyper, but okay, here we go. So now cd and then ... So now I'm in the users. If I type ls, I see all of the users. So I'll, oh, let's do cd and then, okay. Now I need to go into my game, which is in this current directory, so I will type gpgs. Now I am in the asset folder for my game right here, and I want to type the code that we see right here. So key tool, key store, path to debug, list-v. Now if you need help with that, you can also see that in edit project settings right here. The path user key store is where you want to go. So I will type KEYTOL dash KEYSTORE, and then I will type user.keystore, then dash list, and then dash v. I think it's v. Yes, I will type in my password, and now I will grab this SHA1 key. Okay, and that's the last time we need the key. We will get back to Google later. Now in the console cloud Google, I will paste the SHA1 key. Oh, I did not copy it. I pressed Control C. Okay, there we go. Now I will create the Android OAuth key. Make sure that it is type Android. I will download the JSON that it wants me to download, and I'm just going to copy this client ID, but I don't think I will ever use it again. Yeah, everything should be fine now. Let's go back to the Google Play console. I will refresh the OAuth clients, and I will select the client that I just made. I will say Save Changes. I will wait for it to load. Okay, everything's good. I will go back to Configuration, and we need to create one more client, which is for the web. Now, so add credential. This credential is going to be a game server type. Let's refresh OAuth clients. And now for this one, we must have the one from Google. So my Google one says F84. Don't look at this number because it will be duplicated. Just look at F84. Okay, so now select, and I see RPP and F84. Select the F84. Yours will of course be different, but just use the same one from the Firebase. and make sure that it is the same one there. Now, if you are doing this from a previous project, then you will need to make sure that you are using the Firebase ID in every single one. And your Android credential will need to be changed once you publish your app. So after publishing your app, go to App Integrity, App Signing, and you'll see a new key. It will be the top one for the SHA-1 key, and you'll have to paste that here in your credentials. But until you actually publish it, this is what you will do. Okay, so now I've got both of my keys. Let me actually plug in my phone, and now I'll go review and publish. You might have new actions required like I do. So let's go through them. It says I need a description in my properties, so I'll just say no, a game type is casual, saved games is off, game icon, let me just use some of my old icons because it does not actually matter since this is just a demo project, but definitely spend a few minutes actually caring about this if you want to publish it to the Google Play Store, because nothing is worse than an app that doesn't look nice. Now review and publish again. Now I just need the feature graphic. Okay, I did not wait long enough when I uploaded the feature graphic. So when you do this, make sure that it finishes loading before you click Save Changes. Otherwise, it will just delete the image that was loading. Okay, now one last time, review and publish. It's ready to publish. I'm going to say publish. Now, at this time, you can still go and delete your Google Play Console app. So do not worry about that. Now let's go back into back into Unity, and I want to add that new client secret that I downloaded. Okay, everything should be fine. Let's go to Assets, External Dependency Manager, Android Resolver, and click Resolve. Resolution successful, that's great. I will create a new C# script, which I'm just going to call auth. Let me create an empty object here called auth, and I will drag auth onto auth. And, oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so save it. I will double click to open auth in Visual Studios, and we're going to start to write some scripts. Now the first thing we want auth to have is we are going to get an instance of the Text Mesh Pro text that we created. Visual Studios just needs a second to compile some things, so we will work on that. Not responding, so we will come back when it is not responding, so we will come back when it is responding. Okay, so the first thing we want is we want to grab an instance of that TMP text. So I'll type SF for serialized field. I will go TMP pro.tmp text, and I'll just call this T. Now we need this, otherwise there is no way to know that anything is actually working on your device. So I will say play games platform, and then control period using Google Play Games dot instance dot authenticate, and let's just grab a status variable. Okay. Oh, shoot. There we go. Now this should work, and now we want to say if status equals the sign in status control period using Google Play Basic AI dot success. So if we have successfully authenticated on Google Play Games, which means the device or phone is actually signed into Google Play, we will say the play games platform dot instance dot request server side access. Now this will fail every single time if you have not added the correct client ID from Firebase to everything. Now I'll pass true for a forced refresh, and I will just say code equals, because the code is your Firebase authentication code. Now we want to actually sign into Firebase, which we will do by firebase.auth.firebase.auth, and I will call this auth, and I'll say this equals firebase.auth.firebase.auth.default instance. Now, of course, you could just cast Firebase auth, which, sure, I'll do that since we'll be using it quite a bit. Okay, and then control period using Firebase auth. Now we want to set the credentials, so I'll say credential, and we'll just call that credential, and we'll say that it equals a play games auth provider dot get credential of the code semicolon, and then I say auth dot sign in with credential async, and I will set the credential, and then I will say dot continue with the task. Actually, okay, we'll do this two ways. So then I say if task dot is canceled, then we'll say canceled, else if task dot is faulted, we'll say task dot exception, and of course none of this actually matters because you won't be able to see any of this stuff on your phone. It will just stop working. Finally, we say Firebase user new user equals task dot result. Okay, and with that, everything does work. You are now signed in. However, you will not be able to see anything on your screen yet because we are doing continue with. So let's do Control KC to hide this, and I will take the auth sign in credential async right here, and let's go below this. So what we are going to do is we are going to create an enumerator. I'll call it auth get whatever. I will say start coroutine of the auth get. Okay, then I will say system.threading.tasks.task at Firebase user, and we'll call this task equals this, and then we say while task dot is completed, while not task dot is completed, we say yield return null, which means do nothing. And now let's continue later. Okay, so we say while the task is not completed, then we want to yield return null. Okay, so we say while the task is not completed, then yield return null. Pretty much it will just keep waiting for the next frame until the task is completed. I believe this is the next frame. I'm not exactly sure how long yield return null waits, but it does actually wait. So then we pretty much just kind of take this content here, since we're getting task anyways, and we are doing this in an IEnumerator so we can show the log to the screen. Because if we do it here, it is in a different thread, which you can read more online, but pretty much you cannot update Unity on this on a different thread. You can't do anything to change the screen. I believe you can log to the console, but that's just about it. So we'll actually take T now, so we'll start to post some information. We'll say T dot text plus equals, and we'll say auth canceled. Let's do this. We'll say faulted space plus task dot exception, and finally we say T dot text plus equals fully authenticated user. Okay. So yeah, this is just something that you can do as well, but we'll do the coroutine so we can actually see something. We should also add a t.get here in the if status. So that's about right here. Yes. So I will say else t.text plus equals PGP authenticate failed. Okay. You can also toss try catches around these. So if you do see something like the request server side access not working, then do something like try and then catch and just do an exception E where you say T dot text plus equals E dot to string. Oh, and we'll need to say system, so control dot using system. So yeah, and then we just toss the whole request inside of try, and you can do the same thing for the authenticate, so that way if an exception is thrown, then it would be shown on your screen. But I'm not going to use those because this should fully work. So we will save this. We will go back to Unity of GPGS. We'll let everything compile. Now we already have the auth script onto the auth game object, but we need to drag the text over unless you want to assign it in start, but I don't like to do that. And we'll do start. Now this will not work if you click play in the Unity editor. You must build it and have it run on a cellular device. So let's look through the project settings one more time. Make sure that we did Windows, Google Play Games setup, Android setup, which we didn't. Okay, great. So for the next part, go Windows, Google Play Games setup, Android setup, and here we want to paste the XML, which we don't have yet. Okay, and we need the client ID from the Firebase Google as well. So let me minimize this, minimize our auth. Okay, and we want to go to we have the credentials here. Let me see. Okay, so now we want the XML file from our Google Play console, and we want the client ID from our Firebase Google. So first, let's get the XML. So in the Google Play console, we'll go down to Play Games Setup to Configuration, which you should be familiar with now. Once it loads, we want to click Get Resources and copy the Android XML. Then we want to go back to our GPGS Unity, and we'll paste the XML in here, not changing anything, but we do need this client ID, which we can get from Firebase. So here is the client ID that we need, the one that is on Google. So make sure that you are using that one. So back to GPGS, we paste the client ID. So as it says, generate a web linked app. So this would be the web link one from the credentials, which you need to make sure is the one that is linked in the Firebase. So you have two of them, and I'm not sure why the second one is there, but you should never use it in anything, otherwise this will not work. Now it just needs to reload everything. You might even need to go to Assets, External Dependency Manager, Android Resolve, and then Resolve. And let's just do that just to make sure, and it says resolution succeeded. If it doesn't succeed for you, then look through your error messages and try to Google them. If you have looked through them, you've Googled it, and it still doesn't work, then definitely come to the comment section to try to figure out why. And finally, I will do build and run. Now I need to create a build folder, so I'll say new folder, which I will call builds. I will go in here, and then I'll just name this GPGS. Now this will begin to build, and then I have my cellular device plugged into my computer right now, and we will go over there and we will see the login happening there. So I just ran and built my app, and I noticed nothing actually showed up. Now if nothing showed up, then that means that you had a something went wrong. So to fix that, I did actually do what I said, and I added a try and catch branch. So I have try, catch, exception E. Then in my Playgames Authenticate, I put the request server-side access into a try catch as well. And I saw an issue with the request server-side access, which if you have, it will probably say something about your Google Play Games editor, Google Play Games plugin dependencies, and it just says that it has some issues finding it says package not found, I believe. And looking online, it says that the assets used to say something like something more Android-ish. But to fix that, what I did is I just did Assets, External Dependency Manager, Android Resolver, and then Force Resolve. So not Resolve, but Force Resolve. And this kind of goes through and it forces everything to be correct. So if you do get an error, the first thing, try a Force Resolve and then try again. If you still have an error after using the Force Resolve, then add the try and catch and play it again, or add the try and catch beforehand so you don't have to waste your time. And that will tell you what to Google, what to share with other people when you want to ask for help. So now after we're done resolving these dependencies, we are going to, and it says resolution succeeded, and we're going to just build and run it again. I already have the file, so I'll save it, I'll overwrite it, and then I will go back to my phone and it will fix everything there. Okay, here we are loading our game. It showed my login, and yes, at the very top it says fully authenticated user. So that means I am fully logged in on my phone device, and from here you can do whatever you want with Firebase. So this is, I am logged into Google and I am authenticated on Firebase, and I can now use Firebase Database, Firebase Firestore, Firebase Analytics, Firebase Ads, anything with Firebase that you want, you can now use it. So I hope that this tutorial has helped you out, and I hope that you check out my other things, and if you have any issues, Google it first, try to solve it on your own, After you've exhausted your personal options, then come into the comments or send me an email or a message and we can try to figure it out. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.